Alicia Menendez in for Stephanie Ruhle. After days of very public invitations to come talk, the January 6th committee tonight has issued a formal subpoena for Pat Cipollone. The move comes just one day after that devastating testimony from Cassidy Hutchinson about the former Trump White House counsel's actions ahead of and during the insurrection. In a statement, the committee writes its investigation has, quote, revealed evidence that Mr. Cipollone repeatedly raised legal and other concerns about President Trump's activities on January 6th and in the days that preceded it. The panel notes Cipollone did sit for an informal interview on April 13th, but goes on to say, unfortunately, however, you have declined to cooperate with us further, including by providing on-the-record testimony. We are left with no choice but to issue you the subpoena. Earlier this evening, committee member Adam Schiff had this message for Cipollone.
And he ought to show just a small portion of the courage that Cassidy Hutchinson displayed. He needs to come out of hiding. He needs to do his patriotic duty.
As we mentioned, Cipollone was prominently featured in yesterday's testimony.
Mr. Cipollone said something to the effect of, please make sure we don't go up to the Capitol, Cassidy. Keep in touch with me. We're going to get charged with every crime imaginable if we make that movement happen.
And do you remember which crimes Mr. Cipollone was concerned with?
In the days leading up to the 6th, we had conversations about potentially obstructing justice or defrauding the electoral count.
Hutchinson also testified about Cipollone's efforts on January 6th to get the president to urge his supporters to end the violence. And she described him pleading with her boss, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, to intervene.
I remember Pat saying to him something to the effect of, the rioters have gotten to the Capitol, Mark. We need to go down and see the president now. And Mark looked up at him and said, he doesn't want to do anything, Pat. And Pat said something to the effect of, and very clearly had said this to Mark, something to the effect of, Mark, something needs to be done or people are going to die and the blood's going to be on your effing hands. I remember Pat saying something to the effect of, Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung. And Mark had responded something to the effect of, you heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong.
Yesterday's hearing is raising new questions about potential legal consequences for the former president and for Mark Meadows, who is already facing contempt charges after defying a subpoena from the committee. According to Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony, both Meadows and Trump were well aware of the possibility of violence on January 6th. She testified Trump knew people in the crowd were armed, yet demanded security be eased to allow more people to attend his rally. And she testified Meadows had been warned about weapons on the morning of January 6th.
I remember Tony mentioning knives, guns in the form of pistols and rifles, bear spray, body armor, spears, and flagpoles. I remember Tony finishing his explanation and it taking a few seconds for Mark to say something to the point where I almost said, Mark, did you hear him? And then Mark chimed in and was like, all right, anything else? Still looking down at his phone. And then he looked up and said, have you talked to the president? And Tony said, yes, sir, he's aware too. And he said, all right, good. I was in the vicinity of a conversation where I overheard the president say something to the effect of, you know, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here. Let the people in. Take the effing mags away.
Hutchinson also testified that her boss was hoping for a presidential pardon. Today, his spokesperson told NBC News Meadows never sought a pardon and never planned to. Not surprisingly, Cassidy Hutchinson's credibility now being attacked by Trump supporters. Late today, her lawyers issued this statement saying, quote, Ms. Hutchinson stands by all of the testimony she provided yesterday under oath to the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Just a short time ago at the Reagan Library, Committee Vice Chair Liz Cheney spoke out about the investigation and its meaning for our democracy.
At this moment, we are confronting a domestic threat that we have never faced before. And that is a former president who is attempting to unravel the foundations of our constitutional republic. And he is aided by Republican leaders and elected officials who made themselves willing hostages to this dangerous and irrational man.
With that, let's get